Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pearce. This will end up being a Ukraine war news update, probably the first part thereof for the 5th of May 2025. As I record this very late at night, ready for tomorrow. We're going to start with Zelensky's visit to Czechia, where he met with Pavel, as well as Fiala, so both the president and the prime minister. His wife went as well, Zelensky's wife, and they got quite a lot achieved, I believe. And there are a few interesting nuggets coming out of one of his press conferences here with Pavel. He said, Russians should know we are counting on 3 million artillery shells. Of course, the Czech initiative he's referring to. This doesn't mean we want a long war. We want it to end. This statement comes in response to Putin's claim of inevitable reconciliation between Ukraine and Russia. And on that subject, this year, another 1.8 million shells could be supplied as part of the Czech initiative, said Zelensky. The president noted that the Czech artillery initiative is working very well. They've been absolutely integral in moving, and here's the stat, moving the fire ratio to, as it says here, thanks to the Czech initiative, the ratio of shells on the front has decreased to 1 to 2. In other words, the Ukrainians are firing 1 for every 2 Russian shell. That's an incredible improvement. We hadn't heard that previously, but an incredible improvement from earlier times when we were hearing sort of 1 to 7 plus. I would love to know what the real numbers are. I've not seen nearly as much artillery being fired. Just in general, the videos we see of columns being destroyed, of any material being taken out, is invariably from drones, and if not from mines, and then drones hitting them after they've been disabled. So yeah, I that's just anecdotal. It's my own personal viewpoint, but I've just seen far less artillery being fired in general. Let alone the ratio between the two sides. We are doing everything so that Russia is not so successful on the battlefield. Good stuff there. Zelensky announced also the establishment of a Ukrainian-Czech F-16 school within the aviation coalition to be located outside Ukraine due to security reasons. Quote, we're working with partners to open these schools outside Ukraine as we continue to face daily Russian strikes. But the interesting part of this is that Czechia doesn't fly F-16s as far as I know. And so, I don't know what that would look like. There's talk that it would be, parts and gear and, I don't know. Or it could just be, housing, because Czechia is relatively close to Ukraine, right? It's better to have it there than, I don't know, maybe Denmark, certainly than the United States. Okay, Ukraine will receive another Patriot system from Israel, apparently, by the end of summer after repairs. This is something that's been long on the cards. We heard rumours about this. Israel had a whole bunch of Patriots that they were going to mothball because they are, they're being replaced by newer bits of kit, and actually these are Patriot Pack 2s as well. So they're not the ones that can take out ballistic missiles, but still incredibly useful. Talks are underway for 1 or more from Germany or Greece. Don't know how likely that is. With 2 out for repairs, new deliveries could raise a total to 10. So it's interesting that the claim is that there are 2 Patriot systems at the moment being repaired. Of course, Patriot systems entail quite a lot of pieces of kit, so it could just be the radar system. Rather, it's unlikely going to be all of the launchers. I don't know whether, if it's just one of the other bits of kit, that you can move the launchers off to another battery while the initial bit of kit is being fixed, and that seems somewhat plausible to me. Anyway, a Patriot air defense system based in Israel will be sent to Ukraine after it's refurbished, is what the New York Times reported. It was first reported nearly a year ago that the US and Israel and, of course, Ukraine were in talks about multiple systems, actually, so it could be far more than just that one. New York Times is reporting, says Gobi Badwa, that the ex-IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, PAC-2 fire unit That's being refurbished for Ukraine and will be delivered this summer. So I don't know, how much of a battery that's going to be. There are also discussions about providing a second, either from Germany or Greece. I'm extremely doubtful that Greece will provide one, and for Germany to provide one more would be very significant too, given how many they have already sent. So yeah, I'd agree with that, to be fair. Just to give you a bit of air defense insight here. This is from Mamba Big Nafo Fella saying, hey JP, hey team, I saw reports in Israel that claimed that Ukraine had lost 4 air defense systems. I can't remember who the source was, sorry, but when I tried to check the other sources, I did find some reports claiming that spare parts and maintenance for Buk and Patriots is an issue. I just thought I would tell you, and you can all maybe research and find better answers. So I don't know, but I've been saying for some time, I know it's completely anecdotal, someone's opinion on a YouTube thread, you can say whatever, but just there must be issues surely with air defense systems in terms of maintenance and also attrition from Russian strikes, because they are going to be right at the top of the list of targets for the Russians. You might as well take out air defense systems if you can, because if you do that, then you can freely hit anything. Right, so these are the key to Ukraine's defense, and there will be issues with maintenance given that they are going to be utilized every single bloody night, these things, every single night. A new model of the 2S22 Bohdana 155mm self-propelled gun that's in service with the artillerymen and the 44th Separate Artillery Brigade can be seen here. The Bohdana, the new one, features a newly designed cabin with the Ukrainian armor company mounted, made by them, mounted on a Tatra chassis there. So that's what it looks like. So they are upgrading that. That's a T8157 chassis. Good stuff. Now, I talked to you the other day about this. This is, although only because someone mentioned it in a live stream in the live chat, and I didn't know anything about this and did some research as we were chatting, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. So the UK has adopted StormShroud. It's a drone used for electronic warfare. It's 2.5 kilogram Brightstorm system, jams aircraft and missile radars, launched by Catapult. It's modular and boosts strike aviation. So the claim was it works alongside this is what was discussed in the live thread, but I don't know how definite this is. The idea is it's used alongside missions, alongside planes, but I don't think this is going to be as fast as, say, a Eurofighter Typhoon, being it's a propeller drone. Maybe it goes ahead of the mission, and it does the air defense sort of jamming. It defends your own aircraft, if you can call that air defense, by jamming and whatnot. But it could be that it's effectively sort of a decoy. It's not really acting as a decoy, but you would rather this gives off the signature of anti-radiation that then can light up and make this a target. You'd rather that's doing the job than the much more expensive jet. So if the jet's doing the jamming, then the jet brings up its own signature and becomes itself a target. So it's almost like taking the onus off the jet so it can go and do its jetty things, right?
So the Royal Air Force's autonomous collaborative platform strategy leads us to effectively harness the emerging uncrewed air systems technology to bring to bear to the warfighter. Autonomous collaborative platforms will operate in a number of different ways. We will end up with our lower end capability, what we call Tier 1, operating to provide an effect in concert with other capabilities, and we've already been doing that work very successfully. In the future, we expect greater levels of autonomy. We expect them to operate as weapon systems, as air-to-air refuelers, as surveillance platforms, but also operating in concert with our crewed platforms to make sure that they can enhance the capability, bring a different effect, operate in different environments, bring us extended range, and make sure that we can protect our crewed platforms in a better way as well. So we're going to interoperate and integrate with combat air platforms now and into the future to ensure that we increase survivability and we enhance our operational capability into the future.
So, yeah, it's somewhat vague, but you get the idea that it's using autonomous systems to support crewed systems by extending range, extended capabilities, etc., etc. So that is what the StormShroud is doing. We'll be interested to keep an eye on that one. Samuel Bendit talks about the Brave One system. Remember, this is you accrue points. Different units are competing against each other in terms of destroying material, taking out Russian personnel, and you get points for all of these things, and then you can put those points towards procuring different systems, different weapons on particularly drones on this Amazon type website. Well, here Sam Bendit says Brave One is launching a UGV marketplace for unmanned ground vehicles where their users can select a specific platform that suits their needs. 68 different platforms are now advertised for combat, logistics, evac and other roles. So this gives you a bit of an idea and it gives you how much they cost. And I presume it's not just the point system, but this is also just an open, purchasing mercantile system, so that you can also just fundraise and buy kit that you need as your unit. That it's kind of decentralizing procurement, so it's a lot more flexible and a lot more needs based, I guess. So each unit will have different needs depending on what they're doing in their particular area of the front line, and you can just go and get whatever unit that you want. And get it supplied to you. I think this is a brilliant idea, and it's kind of harnessing the free market and the responsiveness of the free market and utilizing that to the advantage of the armed forces. France will produce 1,200 AASM Hammer precision bombs in 2025. So that is, if my maths is correct, 100. So you got 12 months, aren't you? So that is 100 a month, and they are going to be provided all to Ukraine. So if we remember back when they first decided to provide these, there were going to be 50 a month, up to 600 for the year. That's now 1,200. So that is a 100% increase from what they started at. The analyst here says, having raised production from a mere 50 per year initially, I don't know when that was, France announced this year it will produce 1,200, and all of them will go to Ukraine. It's absolutely brilliant. The Hammer has a decent range and is ideal for breaking assembly points and concealed targets. In fact, it's well regarded by the Ukrainians, and we have seen so much footage of this being used successfully. France boosts Hammer bomb output for Ukraine by nearly 40%. Of course, it's actually 100% increase from when they first did. So I don't know when the 47% is being taken from. So you can pick an arbitrary time between the beginning and now, and it's 40% since then. Following JDAM failures, France rapidly modified AASM kits for Ukrainian aircraft. Within 4 months, the system delivered high precision against GPS jammed targets. So that's really good news. Now, Telegraph has, according to the Euromaidan press here, a piece on Ukraine prepares for life after US aid with drone warfare and domestic arms. US military support as it wanes. Ukraine is scaling up its defense output. We've seen that, goodness me, haven't we? Integrating international arms makers, advancing drone warfare, and reshaping battlefield doctrine to maintain momentum. Analyst Mykola Bielyskov told the Telegraph, in all possible scenarios, assistance will eventually end, even if Ukraine accepts the US peace framework, he added. So what would be the point of agreeing to such a deal if there would be no aid left? That's the minerals deal. And we are starting to see US aid flow again to Ukraine, but I don't think you can call it US aid because it's, I think, just purchased by Ukraine or given as part of the it's not given. It's part of the investment into the investment fund for the minerals deal. So therefore, it's effectively that's paid for, really, in terms of the return on the investment they get from the minerals. So you're paying for it with future profits from the minerals. Ukraine has redirected its battlefield strategy, though, toward unmanned systems. In 2024, it produced over 2 million FPV drones and thousands of long-range variants capable of striking targets up to 1,700 kilometers away. This growing arsenal is being used to build a 9-mile wide drone kill zone along the front line, crippling Russian logistics and slowing eastern assaults. So there's been talk about that being 15 to 20 kilometers and how that will now go both ways. So you're going to have this huge corridor either side of the contact line. And National Guard units have even conducted drone-only operations near the Russian border. These drones are now deployed for strikes, mining, evacuations, resupply, and as relays to extend machine range, forming the backbone of new robotic warfare model. Zelensky stated in 2024 that Ukraine's defense production was split 30% US, 30% EU, and the rest domestic. With US aid in question and European efforts hampered by Washington, Ukraine faces a rare case of overfunding. More financial resources than available arms in the EU. Using the Danish model, the Allies are now directly funding Ukraine's defense output. $1 billion from frozen Russian asset proceeds was allocated in April to support Ukrainian arms production, and Ukraine is also hosting foreign defense firms to boost wartime logistics. BAE Systems repairs hardware locally. Rheinmetall will service German equipment in country. Ukrainian drone developer Ancestor said, "If you're not in Ukraine, you don't exist." Zelensky's administration envisions Ukraine as, quote, the arsenal of the free world, yet key vulnerabilities persist. A loss of US aid would cripple intelligence and air defenses, Bielyskov warned. Long-range strike capability also remains dependent on US HIMARS, George Barris of the Institute for the Study of War said. Interesting stuff. And just lastly here, there's been this talk actually again of F-35 procurement being in trouble as nations are trying to move over from reliance on US kit. The Prime Minister Mark Carney's review, Prime Minister of Canada, driven by concerns over US reliance, opens a door for alternatives like the French Dassault Rafale. A couple of interesting points actually. First of all, with the Rafale. Well, first of all, yeah, so we are hearing again rumblings that there are movements away from US kit, although there are also claims that there is still just a necessity to keep demanding that kit due to their capabilities and so on and so forth. On the Rafale, I heard a report that the Pakistanis were actually successfully jamming Rafales, the Indian Rafales. They've actually put another big order in for Rafales, the Indians. But it could be an interesting scenario then. And going back to the Czech initiative, I presume it's the Czech initiative. The Pakistanis over the last, I guess, couple of years have been selling a whole bunch of artillery ammunition to Ukraine, by all accounts. And now that they're involved in the war, in a potential war with India, there are claims that they only have 4 days worth of artillery ammunition left. And ouch, they're putting it down to having provided so much to Ukraine, obviously needing the money, selling all of that ammunition, and now it's coming back to bite them on the proverbial arse. Okay, moving across to Russia. Here's a thread from Roy, useful Canadian source, that says the Russian Black Eye electronic warfare system that jams FPV and Mavic video is now in mass production and is appearing across the whole front. And this is a serious development for Ukraine, as one system can shut down radio drone operations across an area of 2 to 4 kilometers when located high enough. Wow, and there's a video of it working here. The 2 Russian Black Eye video jammers were located close enough together for destruction by a single Ukrainian FPV. The system has apparently been very troublesome and is a priority target. Of course, I guess there are certain frequencies it's going to jam, and if you get the right frequency, you can still get as close as that drone could to the systems. But Ukrainian electronic warfare expert Serhiy Flash has just published an unrestricted manual on the Black Eye. He emphasizes that the system must have line of sight to Ukrainian drone operator video receivers many kilometers away, and so the distinctive antennas will be located as high as possible. Fiber optic FPVs are impervious to any jamming and are able... so that drone might have been a fiber optic drone, actually. That's a good point. I wasn't thinking of that. That's the obvious answer. And are able to locate and destroy black eyes. But evidently, this is a significant problem for the Ukrainians. In a video here, we can see Russians showcasing the Varan ground drone with a trailer for delivering supplies, ammo, or evacuating wounded and dead. It's also used for mining and counter-drone operations, so they are still banging out different UGVs. And in fact, the Russians initially had their head start on UGVs, I think. I don't know what the situation is now. We're hearing, I mean, going back to that Brave 1, that was all UGVs on those... that sort of Amazon site. I was hearing what's it, something like 600 UG. I'm going to find a post on this. Yeah, here it is. So according to Ukrainian Defense Procurement Agency officials, Serhiy Prolobushchikov, the DPA has ordered 8,000 UGVs so far in 2025 after supplying 600 to the AFU in 2024. So 600 UGVs went through that DPA to the forces, and that's over the whole course of the year. So that's 50 a month. That's now up to 8,000 already so far in 2025. So my question was, is it still the case that there's an asymmetry where the Russians had the advantage over the Ukrainians in UGVs? I would imagine what's going on with the strategic industries initiatives that the Ukrainians have probably ramped up significantly and I assume have overtaken the Russians. But that's kind of speculation on my part. But if these figures are correct, I can't see the Russians being as reactive as that, to be honest. And given the amount of money that's pouring into Ukrainian defense manufacturing, I would be really predicting that the Ukrainians have overtaken the Russians there. Kim Jong-un has stated that the DPRK, the North Koreans, are carrying out a mass rearmament by producing new equipment. Some of the old equipment, it is said, has been sold to Russia, and we have seen, as I said this morning, like the Koksan M1989 self-propelled howitzers that found themselves to Kursk and other places on the front line, and the multiple launch rocket systems that have also been provided. The North Koreans are clearly giving, and yes, artillery ammunition by the absolute ton, have been giving the Russians a real helping hand. That is a worry, and I do wonder what's being done about that, if anything, by allies in the Western world and elsewhere. So, yeah, that's and indeed that's all from the whole video. I am going to remind you that Car for Ukraine. The Car for Ukraine campaign is still running, and I'd absolutely love it if you could continue to support us. Oh my goodness, we're over 16,000. That is incredible. So just over the last 24 hours, we have seen a nice little tick up. Really appreciate that. It's comfortably in fourth place. It'll be amazing to get up amongst the big boys up there. Thank you to Julian Miller. That's an incredibly kind donation there. And we have Bob Backer as well helping out too. So thank you very much to those and all the people who have been incredibly generous to help out here. Wizard of Ooze, not just for as long as it takes, but to victory. I absolutely agree with that. So thank you very much to those. Thank you for all of you for watching. Please like, subscribe and share. Don't forget to share and like these videos, because apparently that's good for YouTube's or something. Take it easy. Speak soon.